Then proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm Bobby-Jean Leithead-Todd, Director for the Department of Environmental Management, and seated to my immediate left is Robin Bauman, our budget guru and business manager. And then immediately behind me, our Deputy Director, John Medeiros, Greg Goodale, our Solid Waste Division Chief, and then I think trying to hide in the back is our Deputy Division Chief for the Wastewater Division, Lyle Hirota. Dora couldn't be here today. She's out ill. If you've taken a look at our budget, you'll see that the primary differences in it are related to salary increases, and also is particularly in wastewater trying to address repair and maintenance of equipment. And we have been identifying items, particularly for the Hilo wastewater treatment plant, that need to be taken care of. Maintenance, I think, that's been postponed for a while, so we're trying to address that. If you have specific questions about, other items, we're available for those questions. I was going to say that I guess maybe some of the items that are of particular interest in the area of our solid waste division is we reissued contracts. We went out again, and the reuse centers, we're going to be doing some minor improvements to the Hilo transfer station so that we can start a new reuse center there, because up to now we have them in Pahoa, Ke'au, but we don't have anything in Hilo, which is really one of our largest transfer stations, so we wanted to get one started there. And luckily, when we put our RFP out, it did come in, and we're going to be able to do that, but we have to reconfigure the site a little bit in order to provide it for the vendor. And we have been successful in some of our reissuing RFPs and bids in changing some of the numbers. Previously, I think in the past, we were paying for metal, and now we're going to be paid instead for it.
Bring the microphone a little bit closer. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. And then same thing, some of our costs for the high five will be going down. Thought I'd open it up if you have specific questions about items in the budget.
Okay. Councilmember Kern.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Director.
Good afternoon.
Well, it's quite the job, I'm sure. I haven't been in there as long as you probably would like to be coming to this meeting with, but I just have to say that overall, and I just see it continuing. There's such a great improvement with our transfer stations, and just how we're able to recycle there, the reuse center, especially from what I see in Puna, it's great, and it's just continuing to improve. I'm so happy to see that we're actually getting paid for our scrap metal now instead of paying for it. It's the continuation of trying to cut costs and turn liabilities into assets.
And we'll, in the near future, we'll have improvements at Glenwood and Volcano also.
Awesome. I can only imagine what it's like to be in there. I commend you for even taking the job. It's just got to be challenging. I know you have a great team, and there's lots of things to be worked out, and you're doing that. I do look forward to the conversation that we'll be having over the next little while through the RFP process for the waste reduction and the mulching and et cetera, and it should be a good conversation. We'll try to figure out the best way to serve Hawaii County and the residents here. So thank you. I just have to say thank you for your willingness to sit in this position, because this isn't a fun one.
Well, I thought maybe I'd say that probably the most overlooked part of our department is our employees. Because wastewater has to work 7 days a week, And anytime there's a storm, tsunami alert, they have to respond. They have to either be on standby or they have to be ready to turn off facilities. Solid waste, rain or shine, they've got to work, and they work under some very difficult circumstances, but they still have to provide the services. We're not a Monday to Friday operation, and I really appreciate the staff as well as the many employees that we have throughout the island.
Absolutely, and I'd say too that the staff has to be great. From the folks at management that I've got to deal with, it's been great, and just from my own experiences at the transfer station and whatnot, talking to the guys helping me out and stuff. Everyone's nice, friendly. It's great, and it's just, I'd say that it's been a great improvement through the Kenoi administration. So thank you, and thank the staff and everybody that's not here today as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ford?
I want to have you expound a little bit on the Mountain View, Volcano, and Ocean View transfer stations. And also, last year, I asked for 3 more wastewater engineers to help Dora get the projects designed. Also, I'd like to get a status report on the Na'alehu and Pahala large capacity cesspool closures and the Na'alehu wastewater treatment plant. If you could cover those issues for us, I'd appreciate it.
If I could ask Lyle to come up. Thought I'd deal with wastewater first. I think one of the issues we've had with Na'alehu has been selection of a site, and we've been going through an environmental assessment, and we are hoping in the next couple of months to set up a community meeting to discuss alternatives, because we obviously want to do something that's gravity flow,
Right.
and reduces our costs, but there are there's archaeological issues. In the past, there were lava tubes. We've picked sites, and it seems like every time we pick a site, there's a lava tube, a burial, or I guess the most recent one is that the site itself is okay, but it's in close proximity to some historic sites. So you wanted to add anything to that?
Not really. I mean, it is, Bobby-Jean's correct. We had looked at, I think, 4 or 5 separate sites. Finally went to the state site, primarily because it was far away, but then we ended up with some issues there too, so.
I'm real familiar with the issues. The community's been keeping me apprised of them. I know you have a severe challenge trying to get gravity flow, which we absolutely have to have, and getting a site. I'm just wondering if it's possible to go a little bit farther downhill. I don't know. I'm not as familiar with the areas that you've been looking at, so and I'm not suggesting that's the right answer, because I don't know what the right answer is at this point.
I guess when you say downhill, you're talking about in the state property?
No, I think we'd be right on top of the archaeology at that point.
Right, because I was going to say that's one of the reasons why we stay away from there.
I think it's going to have to be a different site, but anyway, I'm glad that you're planning to go out to the community, because they're not happy, and so we need to continue to work on that. Last term, I asked for 3 more wastewater engineers. It didn't get into the budget, and the problem is that I know of, well, it's not 26 now. Originally, it was 26 different projects, and it's probably down to 22 or something at this point that need almost immediate attention. But we don't have enough engineers to help you. I mean, while I understand you work 24/7.
I've actually been out for a good part of the year, to be honest.
Yes, I understand.
The great difficulty is that we had 4 engineers in the division, and then for a number of reasons, we ended up being down to 1.
Yes.
Some of the shortages there had a lot to do with the fact that that I'm there now and Dora is back running wastewater. We lost 1 engineer to the state. They lured him away. More money, better position. We had another position, same thing, we lost to another department. We thought we had a good recruit, and we lost the recruit to water supply. So we've just recently extended an offer of employment to one engineer, but we still need to fill another position. And sure, I could always use, the division could use more, but, we're trying to stay within the budget and the budget without growing it, and so it does present problems. I think probably every department would come in and tell you that if we were able to get the wish list budget, it would be substantially larger than it is. But some of the reasons some of the projects don't go is like, you start working on it and then you run into technical or physical difficulties like we have with Nalehu. We're moving ahead Lonokona, which is one that was brought by residents, but it took, even though we hired a consultant, it does take manpower and it does take time from our division. We rebid the Kealakehe sludge removal, the aeration project. We've just opened the bids up on that and are evaluating that so that we can go ahead and award that. And some projects are sequential,
Yes.
in the sense that we need to get Kealakehe up to its design capacity, and in order to do that, we need to remove the sludge. And we had environmental issues. We are basically kind of a critical habitat
Yes.
for Hawaiian birds because we have wetlands there, and as a result, any work that is done in the area has to be very sensitive to any of their breeding or nesting seasons. So you can't do multiple projects 12 months a year. You have to adjust to having the birds on site. So it presents some interesting dilemmas for us. But we are hopefully be close to awarding that contract, go ahead with the sludge. Councilmember Eoff has been talking to me about trying to get some kind of a timeline on when we would be looking at an upgrade to R1. We've been waiting for the Queen K project because almost $3.5 million, I think, we've paid over to the state as our portion of that project. And that project's important to us for reuse water. If you ever come down to Kealakehe, you'll see they're kind of lavender-colored pipes. Those are the pipes that are supposed to go in with the Queen Ka'ahumanu project so that we will be able to use R1 water and then take it to our county, principally would be our county parks that we would be looking at, so that we can use what is not potable water because of the aquifer and trying to conserve those resources. So we want to do those projects, but sometimes it's sequencing and sometimes it's just unexpected problems that we hadn't anticipated. Just like Queen K, part of that, we thought that project was going to start 3 years ago. And then we've had challenges with staff.
I understand. Regarding the Kealakehe system, is that $3.5 million also going to take the pipe underneath Queen K to the Mauka side of Queen K so that we can serve the park?
Well, I think our plans had been primarily the old airport when
Just
we
the
were
old
designing that, because that's gravity flow. If you're going to go Mauka, we have to put in some kind of a pump, right?
Yeah.
So actually, the Queen K Phase 2 DOT project goes from
Your
you gotta
mic
turn
is
the
off.
red light on.
Sorry. The Queen K Phase 2 project, DOT goes from Kealakehe Parkway to basically the airport, is my understanding. We go from Kealakehe Parkway to Hinalani. So the segment between the treatment plant and Kealakehe Parkway is currently not part of this project. So that part, so when you start talking about across the highway, no, that's not addressed with the DOT project.
Okay. Is that on your list of projects? Dora and I have talked about this for years.
It's on the long list.
Yes. Okay. All right, let's talk about the transfer stations, Mountain View, Volcano, and Ocean View.
Greg? If many of you are familiar, due to budgetary constraints, Pahoa has the Cadillac and the other stations are kind of getting Volkswagens, in terms of, we spent, I think it was like $3.7 million just on Pahoa. Part of that was the geothermal royalty fund that allowed us to get 3 chutes, and it really is what we'd like everything to look like. But given budgetary constraints, we only have $1.8 million to do both Glenwood and Volcano. So we've worked with the community, particularly with the Volcano community, in terms of the design and what we're going to offer. And if you could maybe update us where we are on the contract.
Yeah, Greg Goodale, Solid Waste Division Chief. So right now we had a design build contract that went out for the reconstruction of Glenwood and Volcano with the intention of beginning construction with Volcano. We just got everything finalized, so we're anticipating the routing of the contract through all the necessary folks that have to sign that contract. So we're hoping that we'll be able to start construction on that project, at least with Volcano, within the next month. Basically, it's a complete reconstruction of both those sites. It's going to allow for a lot more effective recycling and also the solid waste disposal. So, and then what we're trying to focus on is the sites that are in the highest need of that kind of repair. These are sites that date way back to
The collapsing stuff.
They're basically timber retaining walls that are basically not structurally sound any longer, and so that's where we tried to focus on and so starting with Volcano, and then the next one we did that as part of one construction project, a design build construction project. That's where we're at right now. So as soon as we're complete with Volcano, we'll move on to Glenwood. But one thing that we did require the contractors that they were able to keep the sites open and functioning during the construction process, so we didn't limit people's ability to take their solid waste and recycling.
Okay, and we're starting Volcano in 1 month approximately?
If all the paperwork
Right, okay.
gets done, because when we put projects out to bid, after you get all the paperwork and award it, you still got to double check all the certification, clearance to double check, and then route it. And sometimes that process can take
Couple months.
longer than anybody was really happy with.
I understand. I would like to talk to you a little bit about Ocean View Transfer Station, which is on the books. And I understand the shortage of staff that you have in wastewater, and you may have the same shortage on the solid waste side, I don't know. However, I have suggested this to Dora, to the administration. The Department of Defense, the Innovative Readiness Training Team, has engineers who can come out and free of charge design whatever you want for the Ocean View site. You can do this in phases. Phase 1 would be the engineering, and then phase 2 would be the construction. The construction portion would save approximately 40 to 60% because it's free federal labor, free. And they bring in professionals. The engineers are all licensed engineers, and they'll find a solid waste guy or gal to do these things. I have been suggesting this for 2 years now, and so far no one has done anything. And it would save us a lot of time and a lot of money to get a free engineer and get free everything, design everything, drafting and whatever, so that we could then let them come in and actually build this. They bring in their own heavy equipment. They can do the job. These are all professionals, professional engineers, professional construction people, and of course there are some people that are not the professionals that work along with them. I don't know why we can't get this county to do these applications, because getting free federal assistance is something I would think most people would be looking forward to, but we haven't been able to do it. So I would like you to consider this and fill out an application. I can provide it for the umpteenth time if you need it. Thank
Provide
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He has received this before. Through Dora?
I never actually got.
I'll make sure you get one.
thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Yoff?
Both and your department for all the good work that you do. It's probably the least glamorous department, but the most important to a society to be able to deal with their their waste. So I appreciate the magnitude of the job that you have. But, and thank you for mentioning the Kalaka'i wastewater treatment plant. It's going to be, of course, a priority for me in this coming rest of the year to understand the upgrades and where we're going to go from here, because I have a, large constituency that's very concerned about the Class AA waters off of the shore there. Not only the national park, but the open space park and Kahanaiki and OTEC. It's a sensitive area and a very rich, as you know, reef ecosystem and fishing grounds. So we want to make sure that there's no changes, negative out there. So I appreciate all the help that you've so far given my staff and me to understand what we need to do to keep the wastewater treatment plant moving ahead. And anything I can do to push it along, I will. So just wanted to state that is a large part. I'm sure all the wastewater treatment plants are in need of repair and a priority, but for me, that's going to be very important.
It's a priority for us too, but I think,
I was going to say, one of the reasons that we have to address the sludge first
Right, I
is
understand
electricity cost. Because of the current status, we have to run our aerators, our blowers, and that eats up a lot of electricity. So when we do this project, in theory, it will help reduce our electricity costs, which will then, allow us to have money that we can spend on other projects. But it's sequential, but it's always been the goal of the department to move towards upgrading the facility and being able to have some beneficial reuse of the water.
Right, and I know that the timing is tricky with the highway and also with the state revolving funds. You mentioned that that's money that's allotted for that project, right? You need to access it.
Well, the way it works is the state gets money from the federal government under the Clean Water Act, and then they determine where that money goes and to which county. And they've been very good working with us in terms of the money for our closure of large capacity cesspools, sewer upgrades. But there's only so much money in any given year. And so that's another reason why some projects become sequential. And also we're competing with the other counties for the money. The commitment at Kalaka'i, when we were concerned, because we initially budgeted this at about $12 million, and it became apparent that that's not enough money. We've gone back to them, and they've made a commitment to us that they're going to be able to come through with the additional funding for that. But and we have commitments for Nalehu and Pala, but we're a ways away from some of the other projects that will follow after this. As Mrs. Ford mentioned, we have a long list of projects that we would like to get to, but one issue is always staffing, but the real issue for us, more than anything else, is funding. And hopefully we'll be trying to address some of those issues in the next year or so too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Willie?
thank you, Director, and all your staff. I know you work very hard, and I appreciate your pointing out to us that it's a 7-day, 24-hour job and just how much is involved. And I do hear you in terms of funding. I almost feel like we ought to have a separate session just on adding streams of revenue, not just how we tighten our belt, and how do we make a real transform and move to another level of ability to address such as the projects that you your department needs, that we all need, and that in terms of our long-term planning, we're hurting until we take care of them. So again, thank you. Just in terms of, a big push in terms of my constituency and in many ways those around the island, promoting the whole, zero waste, reuse, recycle, composting, and I don't know, you weren't here, but if you do get an opportunity to listen to the discussion that went on Monday in terms of organics and solid waste and alternatives, I forget, we had, I don't know how many testifiers, but just a lot of remarkable people and the presentation, and looking forward, and how does climate change play into all of this. So, and looking forward, it's just how, if we're maximizing reuse, recycle, composting, and expanding that, worrying how, with the proposals coming in for the whatever different solid waste to energy or those proposals, will we end up with a conflict? I think the different numbers, what we have to guarantee to and I think we haven't seen them yet, so we don't know what the issues are. But it's certainly a question for me, do we get down to the point where we can really put more responsibility on individuals, since the earlier you sort, the more productive you are. And as more things become compostable, such as bottles, and moving towards biodegradable bottles, is there a point where we wouldn't need really a waste to energy, and that we would get down to where really between the landfill on the west side or exporting some, that really we would be far better off. So I don't know, listening to all of this raises short-term and long-term questions, and I know that we haven't heard from folks, but I certainly don't want to get where we're worrying, we got to look at how are we going to make more waste? How are we going to increase in order to provide for different facilities? So you don't even have to have an answer there. I'm just expressing my concern.
Well, I was going to say that one of the biggest hurdles for this county is the fact that we are very rural. If you look at those municipalities and counties and countries where they have highly successful recycling programs, they tend to be more densely populated areas. They tend to have curbside pickup provided by the municipality. And it is a kind of the hammer that forces people to recycle because they don't pick your rubbish up if you haven't separated. They have one day for green waste, they have one day for recyclables, maybe they have another day for the rest of your rubbish. In terms of alternatives, technologies, I think the countries with the highest recycling rates you look at are in Europe, and they have basically done alternative technology in combination with recycling. Because the goal in Europe has been to eliminate landfills. And part of that is that they did kind of a directive that they didn't want any new landfills built in most of Europe. I think that there are always going to be some issues, for us, but I did listen to that presentation, and I thought that the theory that you could recycle 85%, I really can't find anybody that consistently is hitting any kind of goal like that, and that's with curbside pickup. City and county has a good program that they just recently initiated, which goes hand in hand with their H-Power. It hasn't impacted their ability to do recycling there. So I think that we have opportunities. We'll be able to do a little bit of everything. I don't our goal is not to impact the current recycling and the current green waste diversion. To go beyond that, you're going to have to look at providing additional services to people and additional manpower. We don't have the ability to rip open people's trash and look at whether they're putting, the appropriate things in their trash bags. That would take a lot more staff and resources for us to go down that road. And on a county level, I don't think we have the ability to force manufacturers to do some of the programs that you need. In order to fund some of this, you really need some state initiative to raise some of the revenues that they would then pass to the counties to implement programs.
Right. And I do see that funding and how to get that going there is a hurdle there. It would be great if there were sort of big of grant money available. I do say, 15 years ago, I lived in Maine, which is very rural, and, we had maybe 12 sorting, and if you didn't put it in the right one, you weren't going to be able to use that dump anymore. It was really, really strict and very huge reuse and, little stores at every one of them. So, and let me just say, just for me personally, if at some point it came down to we needed to do some trucking, I don't want to get where anything, we can't do this or we can't do that, because I think we have to give up all our prejudged ideas and how do we make it all work. So I certainly would like to maximize the amount of green waste going into composting, and how do we get rid of bringing in oil and imports and all of that. So it are big issues, and I'm sure you are far more aware of them than I am, and just encourage those thought processes before we bind ourselves into inflexible contracts. So.
Well, we will be coming back to the council. We're very hopeful that we will have good proposals come in, and we did open the door to multiple technologies and alternatives, and so we are hoping that we get some good proposals, and we obviously will keep the council apprised of our progress on that.
Last question, just on the Javi Green Waste Facility. That's in the CIP, but I'm not, I assume that's not funded, or where is that status of that? It's in the proposed capital budget, the pink book. Construct green waste facility at Javi transfer station.
Bottom one? Yeah, it's number 27 on your list. Why don't you go ahead and give them a...
Okay, that's a project that's actually been, we've been looking at trying to do something for green waste in Javi, Waimea for quite some time. We had worked with the folks there on looking at a possibility of an alternate site, and the sites that we were looking at just ultimately didn't look as though they were going to work out both from the economics and also from the access to the sites. There were several different sites that were proposed, and ultimately from within solid waste, what we've made a determination is if we're going to try and do something, it's going to have to be located at the current Javi transfer station. As I've communicated with the folks there, currently there is no money to do that project. So essentially, I let them know that if they're going to try and push forward to try and see what they can do as far as getting funding for something like that, we're happy to work with them because we'd like to see the green waste diversion taking place. But I've also made it real clear that our first and foremost priorities is fixing the sites that we have that have structural issues. Before we start working on adding services like that to other sites, we're going to get the sites that we know are potentially structurally impacted to get repaired first, and then we'll move toward those projects that add that type of service. So we are interested in seeing that happen. But again, it's kind of from the prioritization and then also funding.
Okay, so we need a few streams of revenue discussion. Okay. Yeah, so we need our new streams of revenue discussion. Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Onishi?
I just have one question. Would you folks know if there's fire ants at the Hilo solid waste? Or have you guys detected any fire ants?
I know that the contractor does treat around the site. I couldn't tell you what the frequency with which they treat around the site, but I do know that they do spread, I think it's Amdro around the site.
Okay.
It's one of the reasons that you see we kind of have a ring of mulch around the site, and that's so that we've got a perimeter that we can try and control any invasion from the outside. Internally, in theory, even though we don't compost, it does get pretty hot. And I've been told that what you want to do is try and get the hotter mulch from the interior when you pull stuff out. But I think anyone that, while we haven't had reports of it, I think anyone that is taking mulch or even bringing anything onto your property, I think you have to keep an eye on it and make sure, because I know Mr. Reese had testified, but he's talking about peanut butter. Those kinds of things, you have to leave them out for a number of times.
That if you guys do, because
we haven't had any reports, but we do.
We are working with Parks and Rec to do treatments at the park. So if there was, I would want to get involved or get them involved with the solid waste with DM, so that
we have
way
a contract.
We don't get it.
We have it.
Yeah, I know.
We have
I'm
it
just
regularly
saying,
done.
But in case, then that way we can help stop spreading the fire ants all around. Thank you.
Councilmember Iligan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Director. I just want to say thank you for working with me regarding the issues at the Keao transfer station. And my experience with you is that when I do call your office, you're very responsive. So I do appreciate that. So just not to make this any longer, I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you for your recent contribution to our department for signage.
Thank you. Councilmember Kanuha?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also am very appreciative for everything that you do and your staff behind you and everybody out there for everything that they also do. But I just want to say thank you as well for the, there's a lot of work that has gone into the Lonokona Improvement District. A lot of people have been working on it in the past. I'm glad to see it finally coming to fruition now. Just want to say the hard work that working with the USDA to get the $4 million grant is tremendous to help those residents, and also the extremely low interest loan that for I think $2 million plus whatever it is on the day that will have to be paid. It's over a long period of time as well, so that's a tremendous help. As Karen said, very high class waters in the Kona area as well as everywhere else around the island, but hopefully we can look into more looking towards the future and going down the coast. And there's a lot of extremely large gang cesspools and big neighborhoods right along the coast. So if I know that's a big challenge ahead of us and way into the future, but it's really important. But I just wanted to say thank you for all your guys' hard work in working hard for all those grants and making it a lot easier on the residents in these neighborhoods. But I want to reiterate one of the comments made during the meeting. We got to do it all over again. Also working with finance. Thanks also with finance for their support. Tremendous help as well. One of the people in the audience, he's been here forever as well. He said, we used to jump into the ocean to cleanse ourselves. Now we jump into the ocean to get staff. And you kind of chuckle at that statement because I know it's not always the thing that happens, but in a few of our bays, the staff has been increasing in number, staff infections I'm talking about. But not saying that you're not doing a good job or a bad job. It's stuff that needs to get done. And just looking into improving our infrastructure for the future is really important. And I know you guys are doing that, but just thank you.
I should mention that, and I forgot to mention with Miss Willie, that we are trying to keep in touch with the Puaco community, who is looking at alternatives under their community development plan. They were looking at a Puaco sewer system, but they're looking at some alternatives that they think may be cheaper, individual systems, and so they're keeping me apprised of what they're looking at. And then the planning department is taking the lead on a sewer feasibility study for Pahoa, because we are also getting, apparently the EPA is in touch with business owners in Pahoa. So those are two other projects that not even on our list really, but that are ongoing, and then we are keeping in touch with the communities on those to see where we go in the future for wastewater projects there.
Thank you. Councilmember Kern?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director, for mentioning that. I wanted to mention two things. One was the sewer feasibility study for Pahoa. Thank you for supporting that. I know it's a little more on the planning side of it, but whatever you guys can do to help it, it's very important. The other thing that I just want to point out, this is so Manini, but it has, I feel, has a big impact. It's not as glamorous as some other stuff. Striping the parking stalls at the rubbish chutes, where you got to back your car in or your truck in to dump your rubbish, was awesome. Is awesome. So simple, but really improved the quality for the end user. And I went, that's how I dump my rubbish, like that. So simple, but thank you. It has a tremendous impact. So big mahalos for that. I yield.
Thank you. Councilmember Floyd?
Thank you. I just want to add a little bit to what Mr. Kanuha said, because that area used to be my district. So there's a 1 mile section, and I've talked to Dora about this lots. There's that 1 mile section at the end of our sewer line on Ali'i Drive. And then the Bishop Estate sewer system takes over. And that's where I believe Mr. Kanuha was talking about all those cesspools that are literally right on the ocean. In fact, you can open up the tops of their cesspool and watch the water change with the wave action. So it's really quite bad. When I had talked to Dora about this, and it was, we had that as one of the projects on that 26 project list that I worked on with her. She was going to have to put in a pumping station to pump the water uphill, because it actually is gravity going towards Bishop Estate. I was wondering, is it possible for us to negotiate a contract with Bishop Estate for that 1 mile section to let it go gravity feed, put in our sewer system, into their system, and pay them to treat the sewage in their plant, instead of us putting in, I forget how many millions of dollars it takes for a pumping station. Some horrible amount of money to pump uphill. And they're so close to us, from a mile to zero, we could pump to their station and just pay them something to take care of our sewage. Is that something that's possible to even contemplate?
Well, I think...
You're off mic.
Well, I think you could contemplate almost anything,
well,
and the council does set policy. I think bottom line, it's going to be, when we have funds available, it certainly does make some sense to try and have gravity flow, because there are two reasons why you want to do gravity flow. And one is it reduces your costs because you don't have to use electricity. But the other thing is, in the event of a disaster or something happening and your electricity goes down, you avoid sewage spills. If your pump stations are what you start worrying about, because this is where you end up accumulating stuff and then you end up with bypasses. So that's why we always try to design to gravity flow, because it has the dual benefit of reducing our costs and helps also avoid the potential for sewage spills. And it's certainly worth talking to Bishop Estate. And I would think that it would be the issue would be for the county, if county money is to be expended, a determination that there was a public purpose in that expenditure, a determination that you were willing to enter into some kind of contract with them, and then you'd have to take a look at whether there were any restrictions on funding sources, because there may be specific requirements for the revolving fund that it has to, who can get it. Typically, they're giving it to government. I don't know that you could turn around and then use the money to help build part of a private system. So there are a number of issues that would have to be researched, but I think in the long run, we all share the same goal, which is that for our personal enjoyment as well as for business purposes, for tourism, for environmental purposes, we want to try and get as much sewer, particularly along Ali'i Drive, as possible. So I would be open to any suggestions and ideas that you have. The door is open.
That's my idea. Thank you.
Well, I will take a look at it.
Thank you. Seeing no other discussion, thank you for all that you do. And if any council members have any further questions, we'll be contacting your office. Okay? Thank you. Thank you so much.
So how about how to raise more revenue?
Okay, so
I stick to
yeah.
M.
Can
okay,
I?
so I need a motion to postpone bill number 208 to Thursday, May 1st.
So moved.
It's been moved by Councilmember Ford, seconded by Councilmember Kern. So bill number 208 is postponed to Thursday, May 1st. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so bill number 208 is postponed to Thursday, May 1st. Now may I have a motion to postpone bill number 209 to
So moved.
Thursday, May 1st. It's been moved by Councilmember Ford, seconded by Councilmember Kern. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, bill number 209 is postponed to May 1st. Now may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Councilmember Ford, seconded by Councilmember Kern. All those in favor of adjournment?
Say aye.
All those opposed?
No, I'm opposed. What about
So we have 8 ayes and 1 no. This meeting is adjourned.
what about